So it's very unusual for things like this to occur, especially over a wide expanse of the lower 48 for something like this, to be able to actually go behind the moon. We've had some other things like Saturn happen back a few months ago. We also had Neptune go behind the moon, but what's special about this one is Mars is near opposition and its closest approach, so it is now the best time to look at Mars in the night sky, and we also have a full moon, so it's very easy to find up in the night sky that you can even just use your eyes. So with a side-by-side comparison here, we can see we have the full moon, and this little tiny dot over here is where Mars is currently. So roughly at about 9:18 Eastern Standard Time is when Mars will pass right behind the moon here in Laurel, Delaware. So that's what we're patiently awaiting for right now over the next couple of minutes or so. Currently 8:40. So we still got about a good half hour or so before things get really close up for this occultation. So if you're just joining us right now on your TV sets at 14.4 or on Facebook or even YouTube, welcome everybody. My name is Hunter Alton. I am the Chief Meteorologist at TV Delmarva, and tonight we have a special event that we're broadcasting out. It is the full occultation of Mars going behind the moon all throughout the lower 48 here in the United States.
What's wrong?
There we go, finally getting things all in order here.
Alright, yep, you should be good. So
All right.
I'll mute myself so I don't
Okay.
be able to hear you say something when you're unmuted.
Okay. All right, everybody. Now we're getting things better under control here. A little bit of some hiccups trying to get this fully set in stone. Hello, Pete. Thank you for joining. So right now we're looking at the view from the Seastar S50, and we have to crank up a little bit of the exposure wise to actually see where Mars is. Mars is this little tiny dot that you see right next to the moon right now with the Seastar setup. But looking over at the other telescope, which is my 4-inch refractor, we actually have Mars right here. It's kind of hard to see a little bit of detail in this, but this is going to be approaching much closer towards the central disk of the moon here relatively soon. This is a much more zoomed in interpretation for this. So we're going to be switching back and forth between these views until it gets a little bit closer in time. So now we're just patiently waiting till about 9:18, which is when the moon and Mars will actually kind of meet together, and then we will be able to have our occultation. What we're seeing here is Mars right now. We can actually zoom in a little bit more to this. So we're just trying to see if we can match any details of any of the ice caps. I can see a little bit of it. But the atmosphere is a little bit unstable right now. You can see how everything is kind of jumping around. No surprise with the very strong jet stream that is still over us. But now once I darken it a little bit, you can actually see some of the darker regions on Mars. But for those who are watching over Facebook and YouTube, be sure to leave some comments, ask some questions. I'll be glad to answer as best as I can. So we all have, a little bit of some engaging conversation from when the time gets a little bit closer for the occultation here. So we're going to switch back and forth through the views. This is currently of Mars. And this is the close-up portions of the moon and Mars itself. We can actually get in a little bit closer as well with the wider view. We're going to set this off towards the side. There we go. Now we're starting to see a little bit of some better views here. Do a bit of a refocus here because of the constant temperature changes outside, which makes a huge difference when it comes to focus. Hello Stan, hello Jim, and yes, still more stable than your skies, yeah. Pete, you do not have a whole lot of good skies up there in Scotland. So we're getting ever so closer to this. Zooming in a little bit more on Mars, we can see a little bit of some detail on here. But now with the wider view here, actually, we can go ahead and start switching over to this setup here because we can actually start to see the moon's edge. So I'm going to go ahead and reposition with a closer zoom. And here we go. Now we're starting to have both in the same field of view. Isn't that neat? So we're roughly about, I would say, 20 to 30 minutes away from Mars passing right behind the moon this evening here in Laurel, Delaware. And we have a great view here of both the moon and Mars right close to each other. So go ahead and share the stream with your friends and family, or step outside. You can actually see this with your naked eye, or if you happen to have a pair of binoculars, a small telescope, or a camera with a telephoto lens, you'll be great. You'll have some great views of this. Intermediate wise, I will be taking some photos of this, so you will see a little bit of some flashing here and there on the screen. So we're still good about 20 minutes away from the occultation of Mars behind the moon. And we got a great view of it too. Clear skies out here across the areas of Delmarva this evening, even though it is another cold night. I'm going to reposition a little bit here as we're starting to get a little bit closer in time. Bring up a little bit of the exposure. There we go. It also appears to be a little star that's nearby too, right in here in this corner. Might be a little hard to see from the stream aspect. Hello, Bluegrass. Thank you for joining here. And then once it gets much closer, I can actually zoom in quite a bit. So like this view here, when it gets really close, but that will be within time. Hello, Black Star. Thank you for joining from Middletown. So the rarity of something like this to occur, especially for given the circumstances of a full moon and a planet that is near opposition, which is the closest portions to, the planet Earth, that kind of everything's all aligned. This doesn't happen very often, so this makes it for a very special event. Usually for occultations of planets, it's usually like in small sections of like the world. Like it could be only like in the Northeast, but this one is very special because we can actually see it anywhere in the United States, which I was just looking at some views over in Central Texas, and the occultation in Mars is passed behind the moon. So I have a buddy that has a telescope set up in Austin, Texas, and I just watched it pass behind the moon for him. So going through some of the comments here, thank you for joining Iris, Sarah, Sue, Robin, and Karen. The occultation for this will actually last about a little over an hour. The moon, Mars will pass on the other side of the moon roughly at around 10:32 p.m. this evening. So Mars is going to disappear for at least a good hour. Yes, Sarah, the really bright, like reddish orange star that is right immediately next to the moon right now, that is Mars. Jim, it is supposed to pass behind the moon here roughly at about 9:18 Eastern Standard. So we're looking at about roughly 20 minutes. And if we could look very closely at, the surface details on Mars itself, you can actually see some of the darker dust areas. Not quite seeing too much of the polar ice caps from this live view. Readjust this a little bit more. There we go. So, Mr. Jeff, where I am right now is in Laurel, Delaware. And I'm using a telescope that I have on my observatory pier in the backyard, hooked up with a camera. We can go back and check the other view too, so you can see it's pretty close. But this is definitely the better view for this because it's nice and close up. Thank you, Black Star. I'm trying to make some more tutorials for PixInsight here relatively soon. A lot of the time's been used up over this past week dealing with snowstorms in the area. So I'm a little bit behind on doing some of the tutorial stuff for the YouTube channel. But I will be reviewing a product here very soon that is a very highly sought out one. And actually we'll be getting one of the first batches from Agena. And I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. It is the ZWO camera rotator. So that's going to be very exciting. Yep, Bluegrass, this is the view with the Explorer Scientific, the 4-inch. And we'll be... And the camera I'm using right now is actually one I just got as of a few days ago, the ASI 662. Because I didn't have a color camera for planetary, all I had was mono. Thank you, Jim, for subscribing. Appreciate that very much. Do want to adjust a little bit of the colors. A little bit more natural. There we go. Focus looks pretty good still. You can see on the timestamp here, 9:01. We're roughly about 15 minutes or so away from it passing behind the moon here on the East Coast. Yeah, the image is inverted because I'm putting the CCD camera, well, the CMOS camera in a diagonal on my refractor. So it is like inverted, but it's all right. I'm sure I can actually do this. Oh, I wonder if I can switch that to vertical. Nope, not that view. So it's orientated the right way. And actually, I think this is the right... Yeah, this should be the right orientation then. Perfect. The equipment I'm using for this is, the Explorer Scientific 102 triplet refractor. Camera I'm using is the ZWO ASI 662 MC, which is one-shot color. And I'm using just my ASI Air Plus to view this because I thought it would be the easiest way to be able to bring it up on my computer and not just have a laptop sitting out there with sharp cap in the middle of the night. Plus, this just makes it easier because of the Android emulator. Go ahead and get this adjusted again. There we go, we're in a much better position here. Gotta check my focus. There we go. Let's go ahead and take some video of it. Yeah, I'm very interested in how this rotator is going to work. But I'm really curious of how it's going to work for my Rockin' setup. Because it's a little bit different backspacing than a normal 55mm. There we go, a little bit of a closer. We're getting much closer. We've got about 15 minutes. You can see, like, on the edge of the moon here, it has, like, this undulating, you know, what's going through. That is the turbulence in the atmosphere that is being picked up from the camera in the telescope. So I had a lot better, like, clear view earlier today. But now it looks like a lot of the turbulence is coming back. Thank you, Stan, for letting me know that, because I wasn't looking at that screen. Move the Mars thing back over. It's coming in hot. So I can definitely tell the moon is a little bit red tonight than it normally is. Yeah, so it's passed out through Nashville already. So it's working its way towards the East Coast. Trying to get my color balance right. There we go. A little bit better exposure. Oh, too much. It could be some of the smoke, but the winds are not really in the same direction for us. They've been blowing more southwest because they are the Santa Ans. I think it's because it's still not too high off of the horizon here. Let's see. Trying to get some better focus on this. Move my marker. Oop. So, yep, we're still roughly about 10 minutes away. For those who are outside, do you still see Mars right next to the moon? Because after this point, once it passes behind the moon, we won't see it again for at least a little over an hour. And it should reappear on the other side of the moon roughly after 10:30 this evening. There we go. That looks a little better. Inching ever so closer. Inching ever so closer. Too bright for the naked eye. Yeah, especially being this close now here in the eastern United States. East of the United States. Binoculars or camera can pick it up? Yeah, they'll be able to. Definitely telephoto lens is going to be the way to go. At least something that's over 300 millimeters or, you know, like a small telescope or something. Getting ever so closer. It's almost go time. All right, looks like roughly about 5 minutes or so. Alex, Virginia, Mars is not visible anymore, so it's getting much, much closer. Inching his way ever so closer. It's a great view. Gotta move it over a little bit here. Continue to take video of this. So hopefully I will have a nice image to post later for this. So it looks like the initial timing of like 9:18 is a little bit off, probably closer to about 9:20 is when it will completely disappear behind. So the scope that I'm looking at right now is with my Explorer Scientific 102 triplet refractor. And the focal length for this is 714 millimeters. And the camera I'm using is the ZWO ASI 662MC, which is a full 1080p sensor. It's getting much, much closer now. Such a neat event. It's getting ready to touch the surface as we speak. And there we go. It's halfway behind the moon. And it's gone. And the moon is gone. Well, there you see it. There it went. So that means the Mars will not be visible again for another but an hour and a half. And there we go. We have no more moon. Well, we have no more Mars. So if you want to be able to catch it again, you'll be well. You have to wait for another, hour and a half before Mars will be visible back. So I guess in the meantime here, we can go ahead and look at Jupiter. Jupiter had some great views earlier today. Before closing out the stream. Wait for it to slew over to the position. After it centers. To find exactly where it is now. Okay, so we're gonna pause on the stream here, and we're gonna send it back to regular programming up on 14.4 Weather for Delmarva. Thank you for watching, everyone. This has been Hunter Allen, Chief Meteorologist for TV Delmarva, and wait to see your pictures of what you were seeing of the occultation. So, have a good night.